planes have collided in the northeast of Spain. The accident left more than 155 people with minor injuries. Authorities declined to give further details on the nature of the victims' injuries. More on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. assures there will be no recession in the Philippines. Department of Health sees no COVID surge this holiday season. Time magazine names Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky Person of the Year. President Vladimir Putin says Russia will not be the first to strike with nuclear weapons.
I won't be ready to restart my tour in Europe in February.
And Celine Dion reveals she has an incurable neurological condition.
Get better. And my precious children.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. assures Filipinos there will be no recession in the Philippines. Eden Santos reports.
The recession experienced in the United States is very unlikely to happen in the Philippines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. made the assurance amid a high inflation rate of 8% in November. Recession is defined as a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in gross domestic product or GDP into succeeding quarters. The president said the country's unemployment rate is too low to experience a recession. Marcos added that since the beginning of his administration, the government already discussed in cabinet meetings ways to create many jobs for the Filipinos. Based on the latest labor force survey of the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA, October's jobless rate is 4.5%, lower than the 7.4% in the same period last 2021.
Ng balita na tumaas ang inflation rate na hanggang 8% last November, meron namang kasabay na mas magandang balita na bumaba ang unemployment rate sa 4.5% mula sa 5%. Kaya kahit papaano ay hindi malakas ang loob natin, hindi tayo magkakaroon ng recession dito sa Pilipinas dahil masyadong mababang unemployment rate. At kung maalala ninyo sa pagsimula namin dito sa administrasyong ito ay pinag-usapan na namin ay trabaho talaga ang aming uunahin. Kaya yan ang nakikita ngayon natin na nangyayari. Pagpatuloy lang natin yan.
The Marcos administration is also working on finding a way to prevent the effect of high prices of basic goods on ordinary Filipinos.
Asahan ninyo na lahat ng paraan na maaari nating gawin ay gagawin natin para pababain ang inflation rate at gawing mas mabagal man lang ang pagtaas ng presyo.
Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has blamed the country's 8% November inflation rate on food imports. The president said he is seriously considering cutting the country's production or product importation. Marcos had earlier expressed confidence in the economic recovery amid rising inflation. This year's growth rate was recorded at 6.5 to 7.5%. Earlier, the Philippine Statistics Authority announced that inflation kicked off following the price increase of agricultural products due to the storm that struck the country in the last week of October.
Prices of basic goods, wage hikes, and affordable food prices have emerged as the top concerns of adult Filipinos. This was based on the recent non-commissioned survey of the Octa Research Group. In the independent Tugon ng Masa survey conducted October 23 to 27, respondents were asked the three most important issues that the Marcos administration must address. 57% of the 1,200 respondents said they are concerned with the increasing prices of basic goods and services. 48% are worried about wage hikes, and 46% are troubled by affordable access to food.
Lands owned by the government will be used for the housing program of the Marcos administration. This means that beneficiaries of the housing project are expected to pay less. Paulo Ramos reports.
Beneficiaries of the housing program under the Marcos administration would pay less monthly amortization. Human Settlements and Urban Development Undersecretary Avelino Tolentino II said the administration planned to construct its housing projects on government lands. Tolentino said one benefit of utilizing government lands would be the development of the area because there will be economic activity and would give the opportunity for the government to collect taxes. The official added that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s program is not just to resolve the housing problem but for the economy to recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Ang aming pong tanggapan, we are happy to report na meron na po tayong suporta in terms of financing the construction for the pambansang pabahay, and also we have received support for the use of government lands para po dito sa ating programa.
In the coming weeks, the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development expects the release of developmental loans from the government financial institution like GSIS, SSS, Land Bank of the Philippines, and Development Bank of the Philippines to fund the construction of more than 6 million housing projects of the administration. The Home Development Mutual Fund, or Pag-ibig, had earlier allotted 250 billion pesos developmental loan for developers, contractors, local government units, or joint ventures to enroll in the program Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino. The move is significant to jumpstart the target construction of 1 million housing units annually, or a total of 6 million housing units by 2028. Paulo Ramos for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The House of Representatives has dropped the Social Security System, or SSS, and Government Service Insurance System, or GSIS, as mandatory contributors for the proposed Maharlika Sovereign Wealth Fund bill. Find out why in this report by Vic Somintap.
Authors of the controversial Maharlika Sovereign Welfare Fund have changed gears following various criticism from the private and public sectors towards the proposal. House Speaker Martin Romualdez, after meeting with economic managers of the government, announced that the authors have decided to drop the Social Security System, or SSS, and Government Service Insurance System, the repository of the pension fund, as mandatory contributors to the Maharlika Welfare Fund. The decision was made to allay the fears of the members of their contributions might be wasted. Economic managers, including Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Felipe Medalla, who had earlier expressed concern na opposition to the measure, attended the meeting. Aside from the SSS and GSIS, the authors also agreed to remove from the mandatory contributions to MWF the General Appropriations Act or the National Budget Law. Romualdez said instead the seed money would come from the state-run banks, Land Bank of the Philippines with 50 billion pesos, Development Bank of the Philippines or DBP with 25 billion pesos, and dividends or profit of the BSP. For his part, Albay Representative and Vice Chair of the House Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries, Joey Salceda, said GSIS and SSS would have limited gains from the investing in the proposed MWF. Salceda led the technical working group that crafted the latest version of the proposed MWF. In his proposal, View Salceda said SSS and GSIS have more limited gains from being invested in the fund compared to the potential gains from the state banks with fund they could leverage to maximum advantage returns, but probably at a maximum of 2% increase in the GSIS and SSS total returns. Salceda suggests to capitalize the National Development Company with land bank resources of around 700 billion pesos so that it becomes something like land bank infra capital as an allied undertakings pursuant to LBP's classification as universal bank. He added that this would allow the bank to more vigorously invest in dams and grid connectivity for rural communities, among other major projects that the President wishes to undertake. Vic Somentak reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The Department of Health is confident there will be no COVID surge in the coming holiday season, but reminded the public not to be complacent about virus infection prevention. Meanwhile, police authorities reminded the public to observe health protocols as more people are expected to flock to Divisoria in the coming days. Divisoria is a popular shopping place in Manila. Madeline Villar-Moratillo reports.
The Department of Health is not expecting another COVID surge ahead of the celebrations because of the holiday season. However, the Health Department has reminded the public not to be complacent and remain vigilant to prevent virus infections. DOH Officer in Charge Maria Rosario Vergere said they are expecting COVID-19 cases to reach 3,100 cases if the public would let go of their observance of the health protocols.
Hopefully not. Yun po yung ating gustong marating na kahit anuman pong mga pagtitipon at saka pagsasalo-salo ang ating ginagawa, basta alam po ng bawat Pilipino kung paano proteksyonan ng kanilang sarili, we do not expect a significant increase in the number of cases. Kung matatandaan po natin, nagkaroon po tayo nung November 1 and 2, kung saan nagpuntahan ho ang marami sa ating kababayan sa mga sementeryo. At nakita po natin, although medyo nagkaroon ng uptick ang kaso, hindi siya naging masyadong significant. And we also hope na dito this coming season ay atin pong mapanatili na ganito lang po ang mangyayari sa atin.
In Manila, Police Major Bernardino Venturina said police personnel are going around Divisoria to remind the public to wear face mask. But since the policy is now optional, they cannot force the people to follow. Beginning next week, the Manila Police is expecting more people to go shopping at Divisoria. Currently, authorities are estimating more than 500,000 shoppers go to the area every day. Police authorities assured of strict security to ensure the safety of the public against bad elements. Aside from the uniformed personnel deployed in the area, Manila Police have also assigned police in civilian clothes to patrol.
Ganun pa rin kami, kami nakabantay sa kanila. Yan, magkakaroon ating pads dyan. Bawat kanto meron tayong pads, nakabantay kami sa kanila. Meron tayo nagpapatrol sa loob, may nagbabandil tayo. Ganun pa rin kami, police visibility, basic police visibility, assistance.
Venturina has additional reminders to the public who plans to go shop in Divisoria.
Yung ating mga kababayan na pupunta sa Divisoria para mamili, mag-ingat po tayo, maging alerto, huwag magdala ng mga sobrang pera. Yung mga bata, kung kayang huwag nang isama, mas maganda. Kung kailangan isama, content mabuti para hindi mawala. Tapos po, although nga na voluntary na ang wearing of face mask, I still advise them na pag pumunta rito, magsuot pa rin ng face mask for their own protection.
Madeline Villar-Moratillo reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, Time Magazine names Ukraine Zelensky Person of the Year. President Vladimir Putin says nuclear war threat is growing, but Russia will not strike first. And UN High Commissioner for Human Rights fears long, bleak winter ahead for Ukraine. Stay tuned for more global news here on Mata ng Agila International.
Event of the Year.
Ready na ba kayong makisaya sa amin? Mga kababayan, are you ready? Ready!
Net25 goes to Dubai with fun and games from Biag Wanyo Mato, Tony Petcaba, Ariel Roses, Wedge Kujama, and Depkada Squad. More laughter from Quezon City, Eric, Epi, Vando, and Jenny. With special performances from Diana Menezes, Emma Tiglao, and Empoy Marquez. With the special participation of Tito, Vic, and Joey. One event you surely don't want to miss. Let's net together, kabayan, in Dubai! December 10, 2022, 9 p.m. on Net25.
Sa Net25!
Net25 would like to thank the following. Red Juice. Bago ang lahat, cleansing muna. Mag-Red Juice muna. Tough Mama Home and Kitchen Appliances. Ang reliable home body nyo. Canroof Corporation. Your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Canroof Corporation offers supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation and modernization. Absolute Method Construction Corporation. For more details, visit their Facebook and Instagram or call Adrian Cruz at 0917-824-8832. Goshi Herbal Coffee, ang official coffee ng mga healthy. Open for distributors and resellers. MCO Group. The home of champions. Front Row. We are in the business of changing people's lives. This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart, Arlex Trading and Construction Supplies.
The news continues here on Mata ng Agila International. Time magazine has chosen Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as its 2022 Person of the Year. Zelensky shared this year's Person of the Year with the Spirit of Ukraine. Randy Bernardino has the details.
Time magazine named President Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as the Spirit of Ukraine, as its 2022 Person of the Year on Wednesday for the resistance the country has shown in the face of Russia's invasion. Time editor-in-chief Edward Felensal said this year's decision was the most clear-cut in memory, calling Zelensky's decision to remain in Kyiv and rally his country faithful. Since Russia's February 24 invasion, Zelensky has delivered daily speeches that are followed not only by Ukrainians, but by citizens and governments around the globe. He has appeared on the front lines and recently celebrated in the streets of Kherson when Ukraine pushed Russia from the critical southern city. In announcing the winner, Felensal wrote that Zelensky's information offensive shifted the geopolitical weather system, setting off a wave of action that swept the globe. Felensal added that whether the battle for Ukraine fills one with hope or with fear, Volodymyr Zelensky galvanized the world in a way we haven't seen in decades. Zelensky's response to the Russian invasion has transformed the 44-year-old former comedian from an embattled leader of a struggling European outlier to a global household name. He has also become the standard bearer of opposition to Russian leader Vladimir Putin, who himself was Times Person of the Year in 2007. His appeals to the West for military and financial support, at times echoing the words of British wartime leader Winston Churchill, have helped Ukraine first halt Russia's advance and then recapture swaths of territory. Zelensky shares the 2022 title with The Spirit of Ukraine, which Felsenthal said was embodied by the countless individuals inside and outside the country who are fighting behind the scenes, including everyday people such as chefs and surgeons. Times cover artwork for the edition features Zelensky in his now iconic green fatigues, surrounded by dozens of individuals, including demonstrators bearing the Ukrainian flag who together represent that spirit. Among those depicted are Irina Kontratova, who helped deliver babies during shelling, Kyiv chef Levgen Klopotenko, who turned his restaurant into a relief canteen, and Kyiv independent editor-in-chief Olga Rudenko. Randy Bernardino for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Vladimir Putin warns of a growing nuclear threat at a meeting of Russia's Human Rights Council. Putin insists, however, that Russia will only use nuclear weapons in a retaliatory strike. The Russian president also hits out at Western non-governmental organizations. He accuses them of being instruments to influence Russian domestic politics.
UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, expresses his fear of one long, bleak winter ahead for Ukraine. This amid Russia continuing its military action in Ukraine. Turk stresses that the violation of international humanitarian law by one of the parties does not legitimize violations by another.
All allegations of violations of international humanitarian law and international human rights law by whomever and wherever committed must be promptly investigated and brought to justice under a fair and independent legal process. Such an approach is also essential to strengthen the rule of law in Ukraine.
Indonesia has released one of the bomb makers of the Bali blasts that killed more than 200 people 2 decades ago. Despite protests from Australia, Indonesian authorities have granted parole to Umar Patek Wednesday after serving half his sentence. Patek was a member of an Al-Qaeda-linked group that detonated devices at an Indonesian bar and nightclub, killing 202 people, including 88 Australians, in what is considered Southeast Asia's deadliest terror attack. Law and Human Rights Ministry spokesperson Rika Prianti said Patek's status is now under the supervision of the Surabaya Penitentiary, the facility where he was released. He will be required to follow a training program until 2030, and his parole will be revoked if he commits a violation in that period. Experts have warned that releasing Patek and fellow Bali bomber Ali Imron, who is serving a life sentence, could boost their notoriety upon release. Patek was captured in 2011 after nearly a decade on the run with a $1 million bounty in Abbottabad, the same Pakistani town where Osama bin Laden was killed by U.S. Special Forces.
Israeli troops killed 3 Palestinians Thursday, the latest raid in the flashpoint city of Jenin, according to Palestinian health officials. This as violence surges in the occupied West Bank. In recent months, Israeli forces have made near-daily raids across the territory. Many are deadly, following a series of lethal attacks on Israelis. According to the Israeli military, troops entered Jenin to detain people suspected of terrorist activity, adding that the soldiers operated while being targeted with direct fire and responded with live fire. The dead were identified by Jenin's IBN Sinai Hospital as Atah Shalabi, Sidki Zakarne, and Tariq Damej. The Israeli army confirmed it had carried out multiple operations across the West Bank overnight to arrest suspects wanted in Bethlehem and Ramallah.
More than 150 people have been injured after 2 trains collided Wednesday in Spain. Authorities say the injuries were minor, mostly bumps and bruises. Reports state 1 train ran into the back of another at a rail station just north of Barcelona. The accident happened shortly before 8 a.m. local time. The train had been moving slowly when the collision occurred. An investigation is underway. Rail traffic along the line was briefly suspended.
Thai soldiers have killed 15 suspected drug smugglers as they attempted to cross into northern Thailand, according to army officials. The altercation occurred near the Golden Triangle, where Thailand, Myanmar, and Laos meet. It has long been a hub for smuggling, despite repeated crackdowns. According to an official from the Pham Muang Task Force, which monitors 6 border provinces, rangers patrolling northern Chiang Mai province encountered roughly 20 people walking from the direction of Myanmar. The official added that members of the group opened fire after they were ordered to stop for a search. The soldiers then returned fire. leaving 15 people dead. Authorities reported the 30 bags of drugs recovered from the scene were found to be ice, a street name for methamphetamine, a highly addictive stimulant often produced in Myanmar and shipped through Thailand and Laos for export around Asia.
Peru's Congress impeached its president Pedro Castillo, ignoring his decision to dissolve the legislature and install an emergency government just hours earlier. The vote to impeach him for moral incapacity was approved by 101 out of 130 total lawmakers. The impeachment session has been broadcast live on television. In a televised message, the embattled leader announced he was temporarily dissolving Congress and installing an exceptional emergency government. Castillo said he will convene a new Congress as soon as possible to draft a new constitution within a period of no more than 9 months. He decreed a national curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. He also declared what he called the reorganization of the justice system, the judiciary power of the public ministry, the National Board of Justice, and the Constitutional Court.
In a related news, after Peru's leftist president Pedro Castillo was ousted and arrested Wednesday, Vice President Dina Boluarte takes over to lead the country, becoming Peru's first woman president. Boluarte called Castillo's actions a coup d'etat and denounced his attempt to dissolve Congress and place an emergency government. After being sworn into office, Boluarte asked for a deadline to rescue Peru from corruption and misrule. Boluarte stressed that governing Peru is not an easy task, adding the need to form a cabinet with the best Peruvians, where all democratic forces are represented in order to get Peru to move forward.
Me comprometo ante el país a luchar porque los nadies, los excluidos, los ajenos tengan la oportunidad y el acceso que históricamente se les ha negado. ¡Que viva el Perú! Muchas gracias.
An Argentine court has sentenced Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner to 6 years in jail for corruption. The court bans her from seeking public office. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador says the sentence is clearly political revenge against Fernández. He says it is also an anti-democratic act because they do not want her to participate in the electoral process. Kirchner, considered the country's best-known politician, dismisses the trial as a political witch hunt. Adored and reviled in equal measure by millions of Argentinians, Kirchner is declared guilty of fraudulent administration over irregular public works contracts. These contracts were awarded during her time as president between 2007 and 2015. Kirchner writes on social media that none of the lies were proven and that she had been convicted by a legal mafia.
German police have arrested 25 people suspected of belonging to a far-right terror cell plotting to overthrow the government. Nationwide raids were conducted early morning by 3,000 officers, including anti-terror units. The raids targeted alleged members of the Citizens of the Reich. It's believed that the group had plans to force its way into the German parliament with a small armed group. Their goal is to replace the government with their own kind of state. Members reject the modern German government in favor of pre-World War II Nazi rule. They typically deny the authority of police and other state institutions. Former soldiers are believed to be among the members. Police are still looking for more than 24 other supporters of the group.
Up next, is there an increase in volcanic activity this year? China's capital adjusts to life with COVID after policy reversal. And new UK coin featuring King Charles III goes into circulation. Matang Agila International will be back with more global news. Please stay tuned.
na ba kayong kiligin? Hindi lang siya good looking. Adventurous pa. Irresistible. At kaibig-ibig. Kaka-inlove talaga, di ba? Parating na ang man of our dreams. Abangan dito lang sa Net25.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's get together sa Net25.
Net25 brings you the biggest event of the year.
Ready na ba kayong makisaya sa amin? Mga kababayan, are you ready? Ready!
Net25 goes to Dubai with fun and games from Biag Wanyo Mago, Tony Petkaba, Ariel Roses, Wedge Kujama, and Depkada Squad. More laughter from Quezon City, Eric, Epi, Vando, and Jenny. With special performances from Diana Menezes, Emma Tiglao, and Empoy Marquez. With the special participation of Tito, Vic, and Joey. One event you surely don't want to miss. Let's net together, kabayan, in Dubai. December 10, 2022, 9 p.m. on Net25.
Sa Net25.
This report
Is there an increase in volcanic activity this year? Mount Semeru in Indonesia, Mauna Loa in Hawaii, and Stromboli in Italy. These volcanic eruptions have made headlines this year. But according to data collected by the Smithsonian Institute's Global Volcanism Program, the year 2022 saw 77 eruptions so far from 74 different volcanoes. The data also shows that out of the 77 volcanoes that erupted and are still erupting around the world, 25 are new eruptions. The Philippine-style volcano, for example, started erupting on October 5, and the eruption is still ongoing. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano simultaneously erupted for the first time since 1984. Mauna Loa, the largest active volcano on Earth, is currently erupting for the first time in 38 years. Meanwhile, the United States Geological Survey, or USGS, has issued eruption alerts this month of December for 7 volcanoes in the U.S. Question is, should we be alarmed? According to the USGS, there are 1,500 potentially active volcanoes around the world, but only 500 have erupted since the beginning of time. Is this something new? Is volcanic activity increasing? Nobody really knows what triggers volcanic activity, but some volcanoes are in the continuous eruption phase, from time to time spewing lava or producing active explosions. Some volcanoes may ooze lava gradually and slowly for many years, and quite unpredictably might someday erupt violently and cause massive destruction. Now, a study made by USGS revealed that throughout world history, there are a few examples of simultaneous volcanic eruptions located within 6 miles of each other. This means one eruption can trigger unrest if the volcanoes share common magma reservoirs. Science shows that 20 volcanoes actively erupt on any particular day, as shown in the Smithsonian Institute's database, with 47 volcanoes still erupting as of October 28. Most of the volcanoes that are in continuously erupting status are clustered around the Ring of Fire, which circles the Pacific Ocean and is the most seismically and volcanically active zone on the planet, according to the USGS. But is there a pattern in simultaneous volcanic eruptions? Terra Nova published a 2013 journal that suggests changes in the Earth's rotation rate could trigger an increase in global volcanic activity. It mentions the years 1830 to 2013, where relatively large changes in the rotation rate were quickly followed by a spike in the number of large volcanic eruptions. Well, another analysis from the Smithsonian Institution's global catalog of volcanic eruptions suggests a season for eruptions. The study documented the last 300 years, which showed that volcanoes around the world are 18% more likely to erupt during the northern winter months than any other time of year. Climate change is also another cause for volcanic eruptions. A 2009 Harvard study concluded that a significant loss of ice and glacier between 12,000 and 17,000 years ago set off a global rise in volcanic activity by 6 times. Geologist Ben Mason of Cambridge University, UK, meanwhile, found that changes in sea level could be the reason for volcanic eruptions. But global and simultaneous volcanic activity caused by melting ice or changes in sea levels is not considered a scientific fact and is still vaguely understood by experts. All we know is that these planetary dangers, such as volcanic eruptions that may very well cause havoc and can happen everywhere all at the same time, are beyond our control and are still quite unpredictable.
The Chinese capital showed tentative signs of a return to normal after a sudden reversal of hardline pandemic policies that hammered the world's second biggest economy and ignited protests. Beijing's National Health Commissioner, NHC, announced Wednesday a nationwide loosening of its zero-COVID restrictions with a lessened scope of mandatory testing, allowing some positive cases to quarantine at home and ending large-scale lockdowns. A major relaxation of President Xi Jinping's flagship pandemic policy was intended to help the country keep alongside changing times. The new guidelines reduced the frequency and scope of PCR testing, but busy workplaces are still required to have negative tests. Meanwhile, with a scattered crowd in a busy place, such as a shopping center, guards only check visitors' health codes without requiring negative COVID tests.
And in a strong statement, China's foreign ministry has accused UK officials of ignoring their diplomatic obligations by blocking Beijing's plan to build a new embassy near the Tower Bridge in London. It also urges the UK government to fulfill its international obligation to Beijing. News sources say the Chinese government bought a 700,000 square foot plot for £255 million in 2018. It plans to build a new embassy that would be 10 times the size of its current facility near Paddington. The Chinese government says the new building will improve the working and living conditions of diplomatic personnel. It also contends the plan has been conducted in line with international norms and received consent from the UK government. Despite a recommendation for approval from advisors, the local council has rejected the plan. The UK side has raised the issue of security concerns. Political analysts say London Mayor Sadiq Khan and UK Housing Secretary Michael Gove have the power to intervene in the case. But such move would trigger a public inquiry that could drag on for more than a year.
A new 50-pence coin featuring King Charles III goes into circulation in the UK following the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. According to Rebecca Morgan, Director of Collector Services at the Royal Mint, the 50 pence is the first circulating coin of King Charles III to be used. 9.6 million will go into circulation. Morgan said the coin is a nod to Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who died at the age of 96. The new coin circulation is described as a fantastic opportunity for the British public to see the first significant change to coinage in decades. Morgan anticipates a burst of new collectors who will hunt for the latest coin of King Charles III.
After a blaze of publicity and controversy, Netflix's Harry and Meghan series has recently been released with 3 episodes. The 6-part documentary, Harry and Meghan, promises to lift the lid on the events that prompted the pair to quit royal life and move to the United States in 2020. Ryan Florentino has the story.
It promises to reveal the inside story of how the Duke and Duchess of Sussex stepped down from their royal duties.
It's really hard to look back on it now and go, what on earth happened?
That is the sound of hearts breaking all around the world.
She's becoming a royal rock star.
Trailers refer to a war against Meghan, with Prince Harry speaking of the leaking and planting of stories as part of a dirty game he mentioned. A behind closed doors view of palace life has been promised, with Prince Harry speaking of the pain and suffering women marrying into this institution in an apparent reference to his wife Meghan and mother Diana, Princess of Wales. The trailers suggest the TV documentary will reveal the love story of how the clandestine relationship between Prince Harry and Meghan developed, but it will also show their account of a changing relationship with the media and public. The docuseries airs 3 months exactly since the death of Harry's grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, and a month before the long-awaited publication of his memoirs, Spare. As well as the further potential reputational damage to the monarchy, it is also likely to fuel fresh hostilities with brother William. The siblings who were close after their mother's death have grown increasingly estranged over the years. Although both attended the Queen's state funeral in September, relations were noticeably frosty, as they failed to even make eye contact. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I am Ryan Florentino for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In the U.S., a new virtual center that aims to accelerate research on diet-related chronic diseases, including cancer, has been launched. EJ Gonzalez tells us more.
The U.S. Agriculture Department, or USDA, announces its new Agricultural Science Center of Excellence for Nutrition and Diet for Better Health, or ASCEND for Better Health. The agency says this is in support of President Joe Biden's cancer moonshot effort to end the nation's second most common cause of death. This new virtual center aims to accelerate research on diet-related chronic diseases, including cancer. USDA says one of the long-term goals of the center is to translate research into impactful solutions. This to improve public health and well-being, particularly in underserved communities. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says ASCEND will bring together scientists, partner organizations, and communities to develop and deliver science-based solutions that improve the health and well-being of all Americans. As part of the announcement, USDA convened a panel of experts that discuss the role nutrition plays in improving overall health and reducing risks for diet-related chronic diseases. Cancer.org says a total of 1.9 million new cancer cases and 610,000 deaths from cancer are expected to occur in the U.S. just this year. This equates to roughly 1,670 deaths a day. EJ Gonzalez, Alexandria, Virginia, Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
TikTok is hit with a pair of lawsuits from the U.S. state of Indiana. The lawsuits allege that TikTok is making false claims about the Chinese-owned app's safety for children. It also claims that the app's algorithm served up abundant content about alcohol, tobacco, drugs, sexual content, nudity, and other suggestive themes to users as young as 13. Attorney General Todd Roquita also says TikTok is a malicious and menacing threat unleashed on unsuspecting Indiana consumers. He says the Chinese company knows full well that the harm it inflicts on users. Meanwhile, the state's complaint argues that TikTok allegedly deceived users into believing that reams of highly sensitive data and personal information were protected from the Chinese government. In a statement, TikTok insists that community safety, privacy, and security are its top priority. The company also reasserts that they continue to invest in new ways to present age-appropriate content and family comfort. TikTok is facing allegations and lawsuits in the United States, with some states and the U.S. military banning its use on government devices. Reports say the popular app is singled out for its alleged links to China, with fears that Beijing is able to use TikTok's data to coerce and track its users around the world. Coming right up, Meta sees itself as dwarfed by giant tech Apple.
The size of Meta.
Aesthetic lifestyle resumes normal operations. And Heidelin Diaz dominates weightlifting at IWF World Championships. All these and more stories when we return here on Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. May lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Facebook's parent Meta may be in the big tech club, but it sees itself as being dwarfed by the giant tech company and corporate foe Apple. Top executive Nick Clegg says there is big tech and then there's giant tech.
Amongst the big tech, there's big tech and there's giant tech. I mean, Apple is now what? 8 times the size of Meta. I think at one point in recent weeks, Apple was larger than Meta, Google, and Microsoft, or something crazy. I mean, it's just, there's very, 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 very big. I mean, it might sound a bit silly in a land of giants to distinguish one from the other, but actually, if you look at the market cap of these
Meta is courting policymakers in Brussels with its latest virtual reality or VR gear. The comparison underlines Meta's steep market slide over the past 16 months and the bad blood with Apple, which has eviscerated Meta's data collection strategy. Apple last year introduced a data privacy option on its hugely popular iPhones. It prevents Meta and other online data collectors from getting user tracking information they previously relied upon to target advertising. That has cut Meta's third quarter profits in half this year. The U.S. company's costly focus on the metaverse has also played a role. The metaverse is a virtual world where users interact as digital avatars. It has spent a staggering $100 billion to date on building the metaverse technology. This technology's widespread adoption is forecast to be many years away. Meta last month announced it was axing 11,000 employees, which is 13% of its workforce. Other big tech companies cutting jobs are Twitter, Amazon, and Hewlett-Packard.
Twitter boss and Tesla owner Elon Musk briefly lost his title as the world's richest person to LVMH's Bernard Arnault. According to Forbes, Musk's fortune dropped to $185.3 billion, falling just behind the $185.4 billion in personal wealth of Arnault. The French business magnate is the chief executive of luxury brand Louis Vuitton's parent company LVMH. It was the first time since September 2021 that Musk was knocked out of first place on the Forbes real-time billionaires list. Yet after a short time, the SpaceX chief popped back into number one. Musk and Arnault were vying for the top spot as the trading day unfolded. Analysts say 2022 is a turbulent year for Musk. He sold significant shares of Tesla Holdings to fund his $44 billion Twitter takeover. Meanwhile, Arnault's LVMH is weathering the bear market much more robustly. The District of Columbia has sued Amazon for allegedly stealing tips from its flex service delivery drivers to reduce labor costs and boost profits. The suit aimed at Amazon.com and Amazon Logistics contends that from late 2016 to mid-2019, the company tricked consumers into thinking tip money was going to flex service drivers, but was actually being used to reduce operating costs. Attorney General Carl Racine also argues in the suit it is not enough for the company to repay the amount stolen since it is caught stealing from its workers. He says stealing from workers is theft and significant penalties are necessary to strongly disincentivize the unlawful conduct. Amazon launched Flex in 2015, offering drivers the opportunity to earn from $18 to $25 hourly plus tips for using their own vehicles to deliver groceries or packages for the company. The suit charges that the following year, Amazon changed the driver payment model in a way that resulted in a large portion of tip money being used to secretly subsidize driver pay. Meanwhile, in response to AFP News, Amazon spokesperson Maria Buschetti says the lawsuit involves a practice they changed 3 years ago and is without merit. She explains that all of the customer tips at issue were already paid to drivers as part of a settlement last year with the Federal Trade Commission.
With a gradual return to normalcy because of relaxed COVID-19 restrictions, many businesses are also emerging and resuming their operations. Aesthetic lifestyle is one of them. Let's hear more from Kim Leana.
Aesthetic lifestyle is one of the emerging businesses as the country's economy is returning to normal operations following the pandemic restrictions. With the government relaxing its COVID-19 restrictions, iSkin Aesthetic Lifestyle celebrated its 7th anniversary with the inauguration of its second branch in Air Mall, Makati City. Their brand ambassadors Regine Tolentino, Susan Africa, and Patricia Javier graced the celebration.
Galing po, mahusay po mga services nila, lalo na yung oxygenate treatment, lalo na pag after taping, mukha kang haggard, pagod ka, nakaka-relax, parang nare-refresh ang balat mo. You should try their services also.
In this point in time of my life, masasabi ko talaga na kung ano man yung mga i-endorse kong product, it's because I use it. Diba? Unang-una kasi dapat gamitin mo para alam mo kung talagang totoong effective sa'yo. And I'm very happy na ako rin ay ngayon ay part ng iSkin. Ngayon, kung ano man yung endorse ko dahil yun ay nasubukan ko na.
Well, I'm very careful with the projects and the products and the services that I endorse. And I've been with iSkin for many years, so I know that they're very trusted, quality facility, and they're also my good friends. So I'm just so happy and proud that I was chosen. I feel so humbled, and I'm so happy to be part of the iSkin family.
iSkin Aesthetic Lifestyle President and Chief Executive Officer Kate Pagkalinawan said they wanted to bring their theme, new era of perfection to every Filipino. Their objective is to restore confidence and trust in oneself, especially women.
Goal ng iSkin is may balik yung confidence ng tao na hindi lang naman dahil kumbaga this is not a necessity, 'di ba? Kasi kumbaga luxury siya eh. Pero ang goal namin is to bring back yung confidence ng tao, confidence ng mga clients namin.
Pagkalinawan is also thankful for the achievement and success of her company.
I'm so thankful that we were able to finish this challenging project, diba? We are still 90% finished. May mga hindi pa kami tapos eh. But we are able to pull, God is so good.
Kim Liana, for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Celine Dion has revealed she has been diagnosed with stiff person syndrome, an incurable neurological condition. This condition, according to the Grammy singer, causes her muscles to tense uncontrollably. Dion tearfully tells her fans in a video posted on Instagram that she has had to cancel her shows for 2023.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to reach out to you. I miss you all so much. And I can't wait to be on stage talking to you in person. As you know, I've always been an open book. And I wasn't ready to say anything before. But I'm ready now. I've been dealing with problems with my health for a long time. And it's been really difficult for me to face these challenges and to talk about everything that I've been going through. Recently, I've been diagnosed with a very rare neurological disorder called stiff person syndrome, which affects something like 1 in a million people. While we're still learning about this rare condition, we now know this is what's been causing all of the spasms that I've been having.
Before we end tonight's broadcast, let us ponder on a quote by Helen Keller, an author, a lecturer, and a crusader for persons with disabilities. She said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart."
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.